All right, good day, everybody. This is Emar Soap 2. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Inquirer Show. We're broadcasting on February 17th, 2021. We have a full show for you today. We're going to go into the technical state of Georgia athletics and break down Georgia State men's basketball, Georgia Tech men's basketball and women's basketball, as well as preview the Georgia. We'll talk about Georgia Tech softball, as well as the Georgia Tech baseball season that starts this weekend. We'll transition to the free kick and have some news and notes on Major League Soccer, specifically Atlanta United, and maybe some Champion Leagues, UEFA talk as well. And then finally, miscellaneous department. I'll go into the Daytona 500, break down the Australian Open tennis bracket, and maybe some news and notes from the NBA. As always, if you want to follow everything that we're doing, head to the mothership, thesportsinquirer.net. That'll give you everything that we are doing on there. We did an update to the site. Hopefully you like it. Try to streamline it a little bit better. Very excited about the new setup or the format or theme, to use the terminology of WordPress. And hopefully you find it more accessible and easier to use. You can also go to our social media platforms on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook under Sports Inquirer. That's all one word. And then finally, subscribe to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, and Google Podcast under the Sports Inquirer. Then you go to those sites and you like us and subscribe. We'd appreciate it. And that is a great way to keep track of everything that we are doing. We're doing well here in Metro Atlanta. As I said, we're in the middle of February. The temperatures have dipped a little bit. Not as much as around the country, though. And if you're listening in the Midwest or even the East Coast or really anywhere in the country, we're dealing with some extreme weather for this time of year, especially in the plains and so Texas and Oklahoma, with a lot of storms and winter storms, and even just corresponding talking with people getting snow in Alabama. We're gonna miss it here in Georgia. This front that's been passing through the past few days, at least here in we're in Atlanta, in the northern part of Atlanta, and we're not gonna get any snow, but the temperature has been below freezing, which is not bad. But for even this time of year, I mean, it's ups and downs, but yeah, it's been really chilly out there, and yeah, so hopefully everything is going well as far as that goes. Yeah, but it's just a lot going on with the world right now with COVID. That's a continued issue for really the past year now. Really reached that 1 year mark of when COVID really started making its presence felt. I remember it was probably around January of 2010, because I kind of do it based on the Super Bowl, because that was really the last big sporting event that we had, at least in the United States, pre-COVID, and that was the first week of February, and it was similar to the Super Bowl we had this past week, around the same time this week. It was a week later because everything was kind of pushed back with the scheduling. But I remember the Super Bowl happening, and then it was around early to mid March is when we heard of COVID, and it was unfortunately really misdiagnosed by a lot of entities, and not even being political, but there was from the medical field and leaders and everything like that. It just was, we didn't see this happening. But that really started happening around, said like early to mid March is when I started seeing games being postponed or rescheduled. Or as a matter of fact, it was at, I need to look up the exact date. I was at a Kennesaw State lacrosse game, and I remember talking to people and saying, "Have you heard of this virus?" I was in this at this time, at least in the United States, it was in the state of Washington. I was like, "Have you heard of this coronavirus or COVID from China?" And I was like, "Yeah, I kind of heard about it, and we're wondering, okay, if we got to make sure, it was in essence the way it was treated was, oh, it seems like a strain of the flu that's really happening out there. Hopefully, it doesn't make its way to the East Coast," and it was treated that way. And I remember sitting there and saying, they were playing a game that day, and I was like, wow, hopefully we get some games in and everything like that. And then sure enough, within that week is when you start seeing the big shutdowns around the country and everything that's been going on since then, unfortunately. But that was, I said, we're approaching kind of the year mark of all of that going on. And I said, we're in the middle of February right now, at least on the sports side of things, and we'll keep it to that. You're starting to see more activities take place, and that's a good thing. We're seeing some empty arenas, and it's been really interesting seeing all the empty arenas going on. I was watching the Australian Open, and we're going to break that down later on in the show. But it was just weird seeing the Australian Open in Melbourne and seeing Nadal and and playing, and even and just all the guys and the women as well. And the lack of a crowd. Yeah, I know they had. I think they're going to be let back in today for the semis of the women and the semis for the men because they had a few days off. But seeing that arena, and that's usually more the active, especially at nighttime, one of the more raucous crowds, and a lot of energy. But the men are playing. As I was watching Nadal earlier this morning, and just silence. And you hear a few claps from his stand or his people, I guess his trainers and some family members. But it was really only about 6 or 7 guys or people in his grouping, and so it was just weird listening to that whole match and not hearing the cheers and crowds and the excitement. Same thing with anything that you follow, whatever sport you're into. Watching the Champions League camp with Barcelona hosting PSG, Paris Saint Germain, and seeing Camp Nou where Barcelona plays their home field completely empty. And that's another. I mean, it's one of the more. It's the 5 or 6 most iconic soccer locations or football stadiums in the entire world. And in Barcelona and PSG major matchup, Messi, Mbappe and all that. So just it's the big it was at to this point maybe one of the biggest matches of the year, at least in the calendar year, and to see an 80,000 seat stadium completely empty for that matchup was very surreal. So hopefully, in the next few weeks or months, however long it takes, we'll get back to some normalities in that way. But yeah, just was really thinking about all that stuff over the past few days since our last show, watching some of these activities, and that includes college athletics. And that's where we're going to transition now into the technical state of Georgia athletics and bring up some college sports that are going on in the state of Georgia. I'll start with Georgia State, and they were able to earn a win past Thursday over Georgia Southern, 79-75. It was at home at GSU Sports Arena. Sasime recorded his third double double of the year, and Corey Allen knocked down 2 free throws with 8.5 seconds left to play to extend that lead and ultimately help the Panthers get the victory. Here is head coach Rob Lanier of Georgia State on the win.
Thanks. It was a hard fought win against a good and well coached team. And um, I just said to the team in the locker room, with everything going on, we haven't won a game since January 16th. And it's not like we've been on a 15-game losing streak, but it's been that long since we've experienced winning. And so that and the disruption that we've had over the past several weeks, these guys really needed a win, but in order to get one, we were going to have to fight for it. And we did that. And I'm proud of these guys. I'm happy for them. And I felt like there was a couple of timeouts there during the course of the game where I felt like I was getting my team back. I thought we had a pretty good team to start the year, a team that had some real possibilities. And I really felt like there were some times during that game where that group was returning. And obviously, we still got some guys we've got to add and get back into the rotation. But it was a hard-fought win. I haven't seen the stats, but I'm proud of the plays. I'm particularly proud of Khalid Brooks and the contribution that he made in the game. It was really, really critical to our success tonight.
All right, and that was Coach Lanier about the victory. And Elio Sasime, who has been the transfer from Cincinnati, the post player, has really been big for Georgia State this year. Was finally able to get back on the court. And I recommend that you go to our archives, and we had an exclusive interview with about his transition from Cincinnati and coming to Georgia State. But in this contest, he had 14 points and 12 rebounds. And Justin Roberts, he had a team high 21 points for the Panthers. And really, I mean, those 2 free throws by Corey Allen were very big. But really, well, the big changer in the contest was Justin Roberts at 21 points. He had a huge jumper with about 39 seconds left in the contest that ultimately gave Georgia State the lead that they did not relinquish in the rest of the contest. I was able to ask Coach Lanier about the final few minutes of the contest that were handled well, as opposed to South Alabama in their previous contest at home where they had some late game struggles. But here's Lanier on earning the victory with late game execution.
Well, when you get to that time in the game, you're always talking about getting stops and rebounding the basketball. It's critical not to give up offensive rebounds in the late stages of the game. And, Corey had made a couple of big shots, so we were trying to get some action going towards him. And, I just want these guys to continue to fight and believe and be tough. And I just like the energy that they had in the timeouts, the way they were communicating with one another. We had a different body language down the stretch of this game, and it was great to see.
All right, and that is Coach Lanier once again about the victory. And yeah, they had about a 2 week layoff due to COVID issues, and they were home the past two games. As I said, against they had the South Alabama game, and then they hosted Georgia Southern, and everything going on there. But I asked Coach Lanier about the team's handling of the bench, and then we'll transition in handling of COVID, and then Lanier having to handle a limited bench.
Everybody's dealing with COVID, but I think in our league, we've dealt with it in a different way. Going into Tuesday's game, we had only played 5 conference games. Everyone else had played, at least 10. So we hadn't developed a rhythm as a team. And like I said, we hadn't experienced winning since we beat Coastal Carolina here January 16th. So, I think there was maybe some doubt with our guys, just, with the lack of practice time, just the inconsistencies of our schedule. Athletes, like most people, are creatures of habit. And we weren't really, we didn't have a routine to continue to work on those habits. So we're kind of operating here on the fly and trying to get back together and develop some confidence. And tonight was it was a great opportunity for us that I'm happy that these guys took advantage of it. Yeah, it was hard because, we generally pick up 94 feet. And wanting to pick up 94 feet, I generally, when guys have played 4 to 5 minutes, I want to get a fresh guy in there. But because we were a little bit shorter in our rotation, we didn't pick up 94 feet as much. And we let guys play more extended stretches than we normally would, because we didn't have the depth and the rotation that we had gotten accustomed to earlier in the year. And it's a credit to these guys. We've got guys that can play longer minutes, as long as we're careful what we're asking them to do. And they handled it well tonight.
All right, and that was Coach Lanier about having to handle the limited bench and having to deal with COVID. They were originally scheduled to play Troy yesterday on February 16th. That game was postponed, and they're supposed to play this weekend, but we'll see what happens there with that. Georgia Tech's women's basketball team was able to get a game in yesterday on February 16th and earn a 67-56 win at home over Miami. Akira Foster and Neria Hermosa each had 15 points in the victory. And here is Neil Fortner, the head coach of Georgia Tech women's basketball. Her thoughts on the win.
Really pleased with I'm not pleased with the way we started the game. We were down 10-2. Just had a really slow start. Kubai got in foul trouble early, but I was really pleased with how we just worked our way back into it. Had some really good help off the bench with Lily Love today, just a monster on the boards, which was really something we needed, especially with Kubai being in foul trouble. So Lily really played big there, but I thought we were really good today downhill off the bounce. But we still got things to clean up. We are not our finished product yet. I see some really bright spots with some young kids that are going to continue to get better and help us. So, I'm super proud of this team being 10-4 in the league right now. We'll keep working hard and see what we can do. Yeah, we just, what's so crazy about this is this morning at shoot around, we couldn't even miss a 3. And I remember sitting there going, dang, okay, I guess we shot them all up at shoot around. I don't know, but did not shoot the 3 ball well today, which is a little unusual for us because we've been shooting it well. But I thought that again, I thought we played well downhill off the bounce. I thought we attacked well, and Miami struggled to guard that. So was pleased with that aspect of our game today.
And for the Yellow Jackets, that improves their record overall to 12-5 and 10-4 in the ACC. So they got into double-digit wins in conference play. The third quarter was the turning point for this contest. Georgia Tech went on a 17-2 run early in the third quarter through the first 5 minutes into that media timeout, and that really got them control of the contest. Now they were able, and while that was taking place, Georgia Tech limited Miami to only 28% shooting during that frame. Georgia Tech had a really strong advantage in points in the paint, 36-26, and that was a big part of the contest. And Larea Kuba she had first half foul troubles, was able to score all 14 of her points in the second half. And going back to Hermosa, she was 7 of 9 from the floor with 7 rebounds, and so that was a very big effort for them. They also, I said, they out rebounded Miami overall 42-26. And that was a big part of the victory. And also defensively, Alana Lanahan had a big day for Georgia Tech with 7 steals when she's the first, and well, also with 10 assists, which was a career high for her. And I was able to ask Coach Fortner about Lonathan and using that defensive effort as well as getting those assists and helping the team win despite having a poor night shooting.
Yeah, and I'm really proud of her for that, Marcel, because Mai is such a hard worker. I mean, that kid has grit and fight and just wants to do well all the time. But, sometimes your game kind of gets away from you and you lose the touch on your shot and whatever. But she did. She found other ways to contribute today. And, 10 assists, that's huge. So really proud of her for that and recognizing she's kind of struggled in the last few games on recognizing where the ball needs to go when she's maybe doubled or somebody's hedged out hard on her. Really proud of how she found the open player today.
All right, and that was Coach Fortner on Georgia Tech's on Lonathan and getting the victory. So they'll move on in the schedule. Georgia Tech's men's team also picked up a victory this past week with a 71-65 home win over Pittsburgh. Michael DeVoe, he had 13 points in the contest, so he is now the 46th player in Georgia Tech history with more than 1,000 career points. And Bubba Parham had a big night for Georgia Tech as well off the bench. He had 11 points in the victory. So Georgia Tech, they were supposed to play Boston College yesterday first it was really scheduled for Tuesday the 16th. That got postponed. Then we got word yesterday afternoon that today's game, with 17th against Boston College, is postponed. So we don't know when they're going to be back on the court to play. But still, every win's important for Georgia Tech. They really need to get those victories up to put themselves in really contention for anything. There's going to be probably no NIT this year. To win the NCAAs, they probably have to win out the rest of the way and get some victories in the ACC tournament. But that was very important for them to get that victory. With the transition into the fall, with these kind of fall winter sports like basketball, they're kind of heading towards the end. So other sports are starting, and that includes softball. And first of all, I highly recommend that you go to our interview with Eileen Morales, the head coach of Georgia Tech softball. We did a season preview with her. She did a very good job. But Georgia Tech is off to a fast start. They're 5-0 on the season. They're able to get victories this past weekend. It's the first time they've been 5-0 since 2013, the start of the year. They're able to get victories over Boise State, Radford, and Georgia. Big standouts from this past weekend was the sophomore pitcher Blake Nelliman. She had 2 shutouts she had 2 shutouts during the weekend. She had 29 strikeouts through 2 starts and 17 innings overall. So she's really beginning of the year. Emma Koff and Kennedy Cowden, they're both hitting more than batting average above 500. And Cowden has 3 home runs so far this year, 14 RBIs. And Koff's actually hitting 692 on the year. So those bats have been very strong for them. And Georgia Tech softball returns to action against Florida State. They're nationally ranked on February 18th. So that'll be happening tomorrow. But as I said, I highly recommend that you go to our interview with Coach Morales, and she breaks down the entire roster and really what's going on this year. We were also able to get in touch with Danny Hall, the head coach of Georgia Tech baseball, as they begin their season tomorrow against Eastern Kentucky. Tomorrow being, well, actually 2 days from now, on February 19th. I said Georgia Tech, they come in 15th, ranked nationally, picked to finish third in the Coastal. But they have a lot of veterans returning to the team, including Luke Waddell, the All-American preseason shortstop for Georgia Tech. So here's Coach Hall on the opening of the Yellow Jacket season.
I mean, we're very excited about getting ready to go here. It's been quite a while since we were, canceled last year. We were literally sitting here in the stadium getting ready to get on the bus to go to Florida State, and that weekend was canceled. And me personally, I kind of thought it would be a weekend deal and then we'd be back at it the next week. But we all know that didn't happen, and we're still in the middle of a pandemic. So it's been exciting to just get the team back together, have a chance to practice in the fall. Things have gone well this preseason, and now we're pointing towards opening day on Friday. So I think everybody on our team is excited to get a chance to play baseball again.
And as I mentioned, Tech is preseason 15th ranked overall on the year. 6 of the 8 position players are returning to the field, including freshman All-Americans Drew Compton, Stephen Reed, and Dalton Smith. So they have a lot of young talent on the team. I was able to speak with Coach Shaw. I was asking directly about getting playing time, because if you look at their roster, they have their series against Eastern Kentucky this weekend, and then they have a midweek against Mercer. And after those 4 games, they go straight into ACC play, and I believe they face either North Carolina State or Florida State, but they go right into ACC play. The way it normally works, as far as these schedules go for baseball, and for softball also, is that you'll get about 2-3 weekends of non-conference play to help your team transition before you get into a competitive action in that way. But they're going right into it. So that was my question to him. How do you get playing time for all of these guys to get them acclimated to ACC play that's coming up?
I think for sure on the pitching end, and then obviously you can only put 9 guys in a hitting lineup, but if we get opportunities to get some guys some at bats, I think definitely before you go into the NC State weekend. And so yeah, the sad part is with the ACC limiting us to 50 games this year, we miss out on a lot of those midweek opportunities where you'd try to get some guys innings, you'd try to get them an at bat, you'd get them some playing time. And now you add 2 more conference weekends, and those conference weekends, they determine your fate. If you do well on those weekends, then leg up on getting into the NCAA regionals, leg up on hosting a regional. So those are not games where you can, experiment or play around. You're trying to win every one of them to boost not only your conference standing, but your standing nationally.
And Georgia Tech does benefit from returning a deep roster of starters, including Court Roding and Zach Maxwell, excuse me. So they are, and also Brant Turter, who was the team's ERA leader in 2019. And Sam, similar question about handling all of these pitchers through the first week of action.
The good thing is we're playing and we get a chance to play a non-conference weekend. The bad thing is usually we have 3 weeks prior to heading into ACC play to kind of figure out what our rotation looks like. These are our bullpen guys. This is our closer. This is going to be basically these 3 games, provided we get them all in, and then playing Mercer next Wednesday, and then we're starting conference play. So, the speed of it is much greater than it usually is. The urgency of it is much greater than it usually is. But, as Todd Stansbury likes to say, we got to stay nimble, and, we got to be ready to go.
All right, and that was Coach Hall about the team playing and how they're going to handle the beginning of their year. And also go to our site and listen to our interview with Georgia State baseball head coach Brett Storndal, and he breaks down the roster as well for the team. I'll throw another plug in there. We've done a lot of interviews the past 2 weeks. Also, Roger Kincaid, the head coach of Georgia State softball, he's also on our docket as far as people we've spoken to over the past 2 weeks. So make sure you give him a holler or listen to that interview and give it a listen to get a preview of some of the spring sports going on. And more are coming. We still have some teams are playing volleyball in the spring. We have tennis and golf. Putting requests for all of them. So continue to check the site out for everything that is going on. Let's transition to the free kick portion of the show and the world of professional football or football, the other soccer or soccer. What you get? What I'm saying. Very active time for Atlanta United since our last show. We'll start with some it's really all off the field stuff. But the biggest news that we found out is that the we know when the teams can report for training camp. Since Atlanta is going to be in the 2021 Associate Bank CONCACAF Champions League round of 16. Want to give the sponsor some love and say it all right. And that's going to start April 6th and 7th. So Atlanta, along with Columbus, Philadelphia, and Portland, are going to be in the Champions League. What that means is that players can report to camp on February 24th, and they have to do a 7-day quarantine, and the training camp can start on March 3rd. So we've got that news from the league office about when teams are going to be able to start doing their training camps. We still don't have a schedule yet for when the regular season is going to start for MLS, but we know that at least with the Champions League starting April 6th and 7th, we don't even have locations for that as well. I would not be surprised if we see them go to a central location, similar to when MLS last year, they had an MLS is Back tournament. I could definitely see that scenario happening for MLS or for for CONCACAF, probably in Florida because Florida likes to host everything. Just the rules are different there. But I think it'd be useful also for a lot of these teams from Costa Rica, Honduras, Jamaica, some of these other. I don't want to say they're inferior countries to the United States. They're not. But just infrastructure wise, the United States has the best setup to host events, and I think they could have them all down there for round of 16, do a quarantine deal, and be able to play. Now, the unfortunate part for that is that it does hurt the revenue for the home teams, especially if you're doing the legs where you have a home and home, and that's really bad for some of the smaller countries. They get some good economy having an MLS team or a team from Liga MX, the Mexican league, going to those cities. But that's just the way the reality is of what's going on in the world. But we haven't received any official word on when that's going to start up. But when we do, we'll give you a heads up on it and give you more information. We do know Atlanta United has drawn Costa Rica club Liga Deportiva Alajuelense. I know I'm saying that very, very wrong, and I apologize, but they do have their opponent for the round of 16, as I mentioned, in the Champions League. So that's who they're going to play in that round of 16 matchup, and we'll preview that when we get some more details on it. They have made some moves on the field or with the roster. It was announced that they have signed defensive midfielder Santiago Sosa, who comes from Club Atlético River Plate, the Argentinian squad. So that was an interesting move for Atlanta. He signs a multi-year deal, and he's going to take up an international spot, pending the visas and the international transfer certificate. So they have made that move to really shore up some of that. With that move, they also have made a trade with the San Jose Earthquakes and Eric Rometti, the stalwart for the Atlanta United the past few years. He is going to go to San Jose, and Atlanta receives $500,000 in general allocation money. So you're really looking at the only holdovers from the championship year or MLS Cup winning year for Atlanta United are Brad Guzan, Joseph Martinez. Lorenowitz is he's a free agent. We don't know what his deal is, but yeah, it's really changing from the teams that we know, from the Michael Parkhurst and the Miguel Almirons, and guys that were major parts of that championship squad. Leandro Gonzalez Perez, as well. And you go down the list of all of those marquee players that were big contributors to the squad. Julian Gresso, can't forget Julian. He's now with DC United. All of those guys have moved on within the past few years. I think it just shows the fluidity of professional soccer. Now, Atlanta's also had different head coaches or managers during this time as well. We've gone from Tata Martino to Frank de Boer, Stephen Glass interim, and now Heinz is the new head coach or manager. So this is all within the span of 3 years. But that's professional sports, and so there's a lot going on there. So we're very intrigued by what happens with Atlanta United over the next few months. And as I said, when we get more news of what's going on there, we'll pass it along to you. All right, let's wrap up the show with the Miscellaneous Department and touch on some things outside of our theme topics in sports. I tried to do watch the Daytona 500. What really hurt it was the delay. They were able to start, get a few laps in, and then they had that massive delay. And I must admit, I did not see the end of the race. It ended around 12:15 ish a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I was knocked out asleep by then. But Michael McDowell was able to get the win. A very big win for him. 300 plus races in the NASCAR. First victory for him. Final lap, he really caught a big break. Joey Logano was leading, and Brad Keselowski was second. They both crashed and caused a huge wreck. And if you look at the film, McDowell was really in the middle of it because those two guys crashed. They went into the wall, and McDowell was really the guy that was right there and just went right through the middle. And what happens with NASCAR is that when the crash happens and declared yellow, the field has to stay where it is. So even when the crash happens, I think it was might have been Chase Elliott. I believe he was in first place, but then McDowell had a really good run before the turn and was able to get past Elliott, and then they declared the yellow, and that's how the race ended. And then McDowell did cross the line first because it was really at the last turn. I don't even think he led half a lap. I think it was maybe a quarter of a lap. But ultimately, he gets the victory. That's a very big win for him. I mean, it's life changing. The rest of his career, he's going to be Daytona 500 winner, Michael McDowell. That helps with sponsorships in a huge way. But yeah, it's just very interesting because you have Logano and Keselowski, former champions, both of them being right there. And not only just not Daytona champions, I'm talking Cup champions winning the season. And those two crashed, and that was just a very wow, that was a chaotic scene. But he was ultimately able to get the victory, and so now they move on for the rest of the year. I'll touch on it. I was up this morning watching the quarterfinals of the Australian Open, watching the Nadal match. Tsitsipas was able to win the match in 5. I turned it on around set 4, and Nadal won the first 2 sets pretty easily, 6-3 and 6-2, and went to set 3. It was a tiebreak, and ultimately Tsitsipas was able to win it 7-4. As I turned around set 4, and that was the third set, that was a tiebreaker. Fourth set, I thought that okay, Nadal's going to get it together and find a way to get the win, but Tsitsipas was very aggressive and was able to really hold his serve. And even when you got to the 5th set, there were several times that Nadal never served for the match. Now, then I don't think Nadal ever served for the match, but Tsitsipas he served, and Nadal was able to hold his ground several times in that 5th set. But ultimately, Tsitsipas was able to get the victory. So now he moves on to the semifinals, and he is going to get Medvedev, the Russian, who is looking for his first major. And let's see, Medvedev got past his fellow Russian Rublev in the quarterfinals. I think coming into this competition, there's no Federer. He's injured. So you figure it's going to be a Nadal and Djokovic another final. As a Nadal is out, and then Djokovic, who has been really a man who has been through it. I mean, if you look at all of his, you saw the match against Milos Raonic in the fourth round, where he lost the first set, and he won the first set, lost the second one, dealing with a lower back, or I guess abductor, hip injury, whatever it is. Worked his way back to win that matchup. Quarterfinals were a little bit easier than I expected. He did drop the first set to Zverev, the German, in the first. He dropped first set 7-6, but was able to win the rest of the rounds. You do have to worry about if that injury flares up again. And he's even said he doesn't know how long he can hold up. Now he does get a little bit of a break because he does get Karastev, who is inexperienced Russian. He's not even is he even ranked? No, he can't. He's unranked coming into the tournament. He's been a kind of surprise story. So if Djokovic could get past him, which you maybe assume, he gets Tsitsipas or Medvedev in the finals. Both guys he has done well with in the past. So that was very interesting. But now Nadal was still going for number 21. Remember, he is stuck at well, not stuck, but he's at 20 majors with Federer, who is, as I said, not playing in the tournament. So if Nadal was able to win the Australian, he would have become the all-time majors winner. But that's going to have to wait for another day. Probably the French Open, which Nadal is virtually unbeatable at. But yeah, so that's the semis going on for the men. And then the women, we're really getting to the point where, and the women, the matchup that we're all looking forward to, and it actually takes place tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, is Naomi Osaka and Serena Williams. We all know the story about Serena. She's trying to get that one final major to pass Maggie Court for the most majors for singles victories for a woman. She's been in the spot many times before. She's lost a lot of quarterfinals, semifinals. Remember a few years ago in the U.S. Open, she lost in the finals to the same Naomi Osaka. But Serena's looked very good. She really hasn't. Simone Halep, she rolled past her in the quarterfinals 6-2 or 6-3, 6-3 a few days ago. She looks very, very strong. So the thing about Serena, but Osaka has a good counter. For Serena, is a lot for her. It's, at this stage of her career, it's about power. It's always been about power, but now her movement is not what it used to be. It's understandable, with her age and just the way her game has changed. But Osaka does have some solid power and just has some good return ability. So it'll be a good power versus kind of counter power situation. You have to think Osaka's the favorite, though. She has beaten Williams in a big spot before, but if Serena wins, it would not be a surprise because she has looked very good in the tournament so far. And then the other quarterfinal, really two surprises: American Jennifer Brady, and then Carolina Muchova are in the semis. Brady was able to get past fellow American Jessica Pergula in the quarterfinals, winning 2-1. And but now you have to give credit to Muchova. She was able to beat Ashley Barty, the number one seed, the Australian, in the quarters. So this is a matchup, really first big moments for Brady and Muchova in this stage. And that's really a toss-up. You have to think Brady has come in looking very good. So maybe see an All-American final with Serena and Brady. But I think it's Osaka's tournament to lose. I think she's been the one who's been more consistent over the past few years and has looked the strongest out of all of the players, just from my objective view. I mean, I'm not a tennis expert, but I have watched some of the matches. But we're going to get a very interesting final, I think, because if you have Brady and Serena, that's All American final. Osaka, if she wins, that'll be her going for another major. Mashova says she's the underdog, the lower ranked player. That'd be intrigue there. So the Australian Open, I think, is going to come out pretty well as far as whoever wins that. So that'd be very interesting to see. I also want to mention, I should have brought it up earlier. I was watching the Champions League with the PSG and Barcelona. I was touching on it a little bit, but yeah, Barcelona. I think it's to the point where, I mean, Messi signed a massive $300 million or 400, whatever the number is, astronomical. The extension. Personally, I was very excited to see him change location and maybe go into Premier League. And Manchester City keeps saying that they are still in pursuit of him. Soccer's odd with their rulings and how they operate because I said Messi signs this big $400 million extension or deal with Barcelona, yet Manchester City is still saying they're pursuing him. And the scary part is They have money to pull it off if they really wanted to. But yeah, with Barcelona, you got to figure they're really struggling in the in La Liga this year, and this Champions League losing at home 4-1 to PSG. That's not a good sign for them to advance beyond that. We may be seeing a complete rebuild for Barcelona, which, as I said, is one of the marquee franchises in all of club soccer. But to just see a team like that, I said, like Barcelona, get dominated at home, and yes, I know it's a different type of home atmosphere, as I mentioned earlier in the show, than what we've had in the past. But still, that was Ed Mbappe, who I know Ronaldo, still Cristiano Ronaldo gets love as maybe the best player in the world, and Messi, and those guys have been best players in the world the past 10 years, and they're two generational guys. Some would say they may be top two, three players all time. Another argument for another day. But those guys are in their 30s and which they're advancing. Mbappe is the guy, though, that I think, and I think it's because he plays at PSG and is looked at as just a conglomerate and not a real team. But we've seen his skills at the World Cup, scoring in the final, youngest guy since Pele to do that. And it was a reminder that, and I said they play in the French league, which is inferior to the English Premier League and Spanish league and Bundesliga in Germany. We get all of that, but his display last night was tremendous, scoring all types of ways, complete control of the contest, and unfortunately, well, the move to one of the another European power, I think will get his profile up even more. But right now, just enjoy him playing for his home country or in his home country of France. And I think PSG they could make a run towards a league, towards a championship. Remember they were in the finals last year and lost to Bayern Munich in a Champions League final. So they've been tested. They've made the runs before, but this may be the year that they can do it. Because if you look at the rest of the competition in the Champions League, and you look how they're doing domestically, they may be in the best form. Matter of fact, we'll look it up right now. And the draw, we'll pull it up because that's what we have to do to be accurate for what I'm saying. And I know Porto and Juventus are playing today, and Porto's solid, but yeah, we'll see what's going on there. But yeah, the draw, as we pull it up right now, is this going on? Yeah, so let's see. Now, Man City's playing very well. Obviously, they're in the league of the EPL, so you have to figure that they're informed. But I look at the rest of the teams. I mean, Chelsea's not doing very well. Liverpool is. I mean, now they won. I know they won. They beat Lisbon yesterday 2-0. Salah with the goal, but they haven't been at their strongest form. Barcelona, as I mentioned, is in trouble. Borussia Dortmund is trying to work in a new head coach. Real Madrid, obviously they are Real Madrid. They're going to have a solid squad. But I would say that this is maybe the year, and Juventus is in a dogfight right now to win the Italian Scudetto for I think the 100th consecutive year. It's not 100 years, but they're not in. I mean, they're rounding in the form, but they are not the Juventus that we've seen dominate before. This may be PSG's year to finally get that Champions League under this current regime. So I'm looking forward. We'll see what happens there and checking that out. All right, that's going to conclude today's show. Thanks for listening to our broadcast. And as always, if you follow everything that we're doing, just head to the sportsinquirer.net. That's a great way to check everything out. And then go to our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, under Sports Inquirer. And then finally, subscribe to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and iTunes. Just search us, follow us, and that's a great way to keep track of what we're doing. Until next time, good fight, good night, and be safe.